What's going on, guys? It's Travis with Handy Dandy Dalton. Just doing a quick video. I had a couple of people ask me, how do I price my jobs and how do I um, estimate, do my estimates and things like that. Pretty much just the back end stuff. So the way it works with doing an estimate, a client will call me, tell me something like, oh, I need a drywall repair or something similar. And then I have to go take a look at it and then figure out how much to charge the client so that it's fair for them and fair for me. So I did write down a couple things that I do. Your state, city, penal code, whatever, could be different. You could require more paperwork or less paperwork or whatever. But this is kind of going to be a basic overview. I'm not an accountant or a lawyer or anything. This is not legal advice. This is just telling you how I do things. So the first thing I had to do when I decided to become a handyman, I had to sit down and decide on my rate. And after a lot of trial and error, I figured out my rate for my area, for my skill level. And you're going to have to do the same. I'm going to use round numbers for this demonstration. So we're going to just say you decided your rate is $20. So when you price your jobs, $20 is going to be your hourly rate. Now, some jobs are going to be per hour and some jobs are going to be by job. So when you have this, it's either per job or per task. So we'll say per item, like drywall repair or something like that, and then hourly. So like per item, let's say you decide to drywall something and you're going to do drywall, the mud, the texture, painting, and you decide I'm going to do that per item. And then another one is like a honey-do list where they have 7 or 8 small items, tightening a doorknob, changing a light, stuff like that, a light bulb, where, you know, it's not really a per job thing. It's kind of all these little things. So then you need to figure out your hourly rate, which would be the 20 per hour. Now, how that breaks down is the hourly is at the outset looks easier than the per item, because with the per item you have to decide, figure out how long it's going to take you, and then bill it. And then if you go over that, you know, you're essentially underbidding the job. Hourly is not that great though, because some things, as you get more skilled, you'll finish it quicker. Like before with my drywall, when I first started, it took me, not exaggerating, probably 4 or 5 times longer than it does now. So if I were to do hourly now, I would get paid so much less than my skill level would determine. So per item or per hourly. So that's the first step, is to figure out your hourly rate. And you need to take all kinds of things into consideration: your insurance, gas, wear and tear, getting tools. Like I said, this is just a round number. Now, the second thing is when I'm doing an estimate, if it's something I've done before, great. I kind of have an idea of it. If it's not something I've done before, then I watch YouTube videos, I watch training videos, I check out manufacturers for that particular item to see what they say. Like with cement, bags of cement, you know, digging a post and setting a post for a fence. You know, the bags will actually tell you how many bags to use and things like that. And that's a good indicator for you to figure out material costs and things. So number 2 would just be research. You know, if you don't really know how to do it, you learn how to do it, things like that. That way you kind of get a time frame. And that's the most important on this. And again, please ignore my chicken scratch. But time frame. Let's take the hanging a fence post, repairing a fence post that's broken, or, you know, the fence has fallen down because one of the posts came out. You know, doing watching a video on that, several videos on that, reading the instruction bag, stuff like that. That research has me to where I know it's going to take me about 2 to 3 hours to do, depending on how bad things are. Like if I have to take apart the fence, you know, the panels on each side of the fence, so I can get to the post, dig it out, clean up, going to the client's house to do it. That roughly is going to take me 2 to 3 hours. And I've done so many of these, and it does take me And again, you can do it faster, but I'm including going to the client's house, going to Home Depot, big box store to pick up materials, cleaning up, everything. So you have to encompass that. So now that I have my research and my time frame, 2 to 3 hours, I know to charge for this one. If we were following this example, it would be between $40 and $60 if we were to follow this. If I made $40, then it would be 80 to 120, and things like that. $50, it would be 100 to 150. So you'll kind of figure out by researching it the time frame and how much you should charge. And that brings me to my third point with this is another good way to figure out pricing and doing estimates and such is online pricing. There are websites where you'll type in Handyman or Contractor setting a post or fixing a post, and they'll actually tell you the price range, and they'll give you all these options. And most of them I found have been so overblown, it's kind of crazy how expensive they are. And you can figure, but it gives you wiggle room. It lets you know, like, okay, well, realistically, if you go on and let's take the post, for example. Let's say you were going to charge the $20 per hour. You think it's going to take you 3 hours. So that's $60. You're thinking, okay, it's going to cost me, I should get paid $60. But then you go online and you see that in your area, people are charging $100 for that particular one. So then you got to ask yourself, okay, well, what's different between what I'm doing and what they're doing? And you can see all the lines, these online pricing tools, they list out all these crazy things that you would never think of. A lot of them are something that you're not going to do. So then you can just delete those off, and then you'll see where your pricing is. Let's say in this example for the post, you were wanting $60, it says $100. You can see that, okay, well, after viewing the online tools, and I forgot a couple things, so I think I should actually bill $80. You know, the 100 is too high, your 60 was too low. You settled on 80 because you saw that you have to take the post and the cement to the dump, and that's going to take you an extra hour or whatever. The online tools help you to remember things that you forgot or never thought about, or you didn't really realize were a part of doing that. So online tools are a big resource. Now, as for that particular thing, with your online pricing, your research, and your per hour, there's also imaginative visualization. Sounds weird, but you have to imagine yourself doing the job, and you have to try to guesstimate a really honest time frame. So for digging a post, we'll keep using that example. To get there, to get the materials, to get there to the client's house, you know, yeah, I could probably do it in 30, 40 minutes, but we're going to say 1 hour. You know, just visualizing me going to the big box store, finding the proper materials, getting them loaded up, loading them in my van, driving to the client's house. I think an hour is a good visualization and guesstimate. Taking out the post, you know, you would think, you know, digging out a post is going to be super easy. And, you know, if the post is still connected to the cement footer that it's set in, then yeah, you know, you can grab the post and push it out to one side and leverage it out. You know, you can get that done in 10 minutes maybe, or the post could be broken. And so now you have to take a pickaxe and a shovel and dig this 100-pound cement footer out. You don't know that but before you start digging, but you got to price it before you start digging. So you almost have to, not worst case scenario, but you do have to consider, visualize, and imagine these, you know, worst case scenarios. You know, if I'm going in just to replace a post and the post is broken off from the block, I now have to dig. That's going to take at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on time of year, how hot it is, you know, just different things like that. And, you know, you may be able to get it done in 30 minutes, but I'm not killing myself, you know, with working as fast as possible. I'm working at a safe pace and a comfortable pace to get it done. again, fair for client, fair for me. That's the big thing. So you have to visualize these things, and you have to take them into account and clean up. We're saying 3 hours here, 2 to 3 hours for the post idea. So 1 hour to pick up and everything, 1 hour to dig up and everything else, and then an hour to set the line, make sure it's plumb and everything else, put the post in, dump in the cement, dump in the water, and then reattach the fences. That's about an hour, maybe hour and a half. So we could even say that this would be 3 to 4 hours. So now if you take a look, that's closer to this $100 that was online. Again, rough numbers. So then 4 hours would be $80. So maybe when you look at this, you originally thought 60. You looked online and they said, okay, well, average is 100. You come up with 80. But now that you've kind of visualized it, you're like, you know what? I should do this for $100, because what if something happens? It takes a little bit longer, things like that. So these are all key components. And like I said, you'll hear me say in the video a couple times, fair for me, fair for client. If you're gouging clients, then go do something else, be in pharmacy or a lawyer or something. But you can make money if you are fair to you and fair to the client. And these are steps that I take to do that. Now, the next thing is, when you write your estimate, you need to write your estimate with limitations. And again, I'm not a lawyer, accountant, anything like that, or anything. This is not legal advice. But when I write my estimate, like for the post, when I write it, I write for no more than one post or what have you, than one post. Because if you say something like, I will fix the fence, and you get there and you replace the one post, and all of a sudden, you think you're done, but there's another post that's broken and sagging. If you had put, I will fix the fence, you now have to do twice the amount of work because you didn't put limitations on your estimate. So when you write your estimate, just write exactly what you're doing. Don't be so general that you, hit yourself. Like with the post, that's an example. With drywall, I always put the limit of my drywall. So if I'm doing a job and there's water damage that had, been there for years and years and they just want to replace it, when I write the estimate, I always put no more than, and let's say, it looks like the little area that I'm trying to drywall is a 1 foot by 1 foot, right? But then I get in there and all of the drywall is damaged. And so now I have to do, let's say a 4 foot by 3 foot section. Well, the estimate's for this, but I wrote, I will fix the wall. Well, now I have to do all the work of this because I didn't put a limitation of saying no more than 1 foot by 1 foot, So these are things to think about when pricing your work and when you're putting your estimates out. So, these are the steps I take. Your first thing you have to do is come up with your hourly rate, and at first you should be low. And you shouldn't be taking big jobs, and you should be doing small jobs, and you really should be within the limitations of your state, local laws, and all that stuff. With your hourly rate, you then have to decide per item or hourly. At first, you may think, oh, it's great to do hourly, but that's not the case. Hourly, I feel, is more for honey-do lists and lists that are just inconsequential things. I would never do an hourly rate for anything over, $100 or $200 or something like that, because, they'll toss in weird stuff with like, can you replace out this chandelier, or, can you fix the fascia board? It's a little rotten, and you think, oh, okay, well, it's an hourly thing and it takes you 6 hours to do the fascia board, or, again, exaggerated numbers, but they're not going to want to pay that, so you have to, I would stick to per item, and then I would do my research and online pricing and visualize it. The other thing is with the pricing, when you determine your price, you need a minimum. to even show up for work. Not to go do a free estimate or whatever, but you need to decide a minimum. So if someone wants you to come out and change their light bulbs, you know, that's going to take you 20 minutes. You're not going to charge them, you know, $10, $15 or whatever. You need to figure out your minimum. So 2-hour minimum, or something like that. I do like a 1.5 hour pricing minimum for mine. And that's to do any work. And for me, so far that's worked. And I'm actually thinking about upping my minimum, but to each their own. But this was went on a little bit longer than I expected. These steps are steps that I wish I had seen when I really got started in it, because it was kind of very difficult to figure out and everything else. But I will tell you, you know, once you figure out your minimum, your hourly rate, your minimum, you know, you start researching, and as you get experience, you know, you're still going to underbid on things, but you know, the online pricing and the research, they'll give you a better idea. And visualizing. And the other thing with visualizing, incorporate cleanup time into it. If it's a very small job, you know, cleanup time may be 30 minutes. If it's, you know, a couple $100 job, cleanup time may be 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what you're doing, especially with painting and drywall. But that needs to be included, because you're doing work, even though you're cleaning up your mess. That mess is because you're doing the work. So be sure to do that. All right, guys. Well, a long video, sorry, but that's my little step plan for pricing out jobs.